His name was Victor Hale, a billionaire whose name rarely appeared in gossip magazines, but often in business headlines. To anyone in the room, he looked like just another weary traveler escaping the storm. Only one person paid him more than a passing glance, a waitress with fiery auburn hair tied in a messy bun and a smile that shone despite her tired eyes. Her name was Grace Evans. "Morning, sir," Grace greeted warmly, clutching her notepad. "Coffee to start?" Victor nodded without meeting his eyes. Black, strong. His voice was steady, but Grace noticed the subtle tremor in his hands as he pushed damp bills across the counter. She glanced down. 2 crumpled singles, barely enough to cover the coffee and not the tip. Something in her chest tightened. She'd seen this scene before. Construction workers short on cash, travelers caught between paychecks, locals battling debts. She was no stranger to hardship. Her own rent was overdue, her shoes had holes in them, and her younger brother's textbooks weighed heavier than her tray of plates. But still, she smiled. "Don't worry about it," she said gently, sliding the bills back toward him. "Coffee's on me." Victor's head snapped up, startled. Her green eyes met his steel gray ones, steady and kind. For a brief moment, his carefully built mask cracked. "You don't even know me," he murmured. Grace shrugged. "Everyone deserves a little kindness, especially on days like this." Victor watched her walk away, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum floor. He had spent years surrounded by people who only cared about his money, his power, his empire. His father's company, Hale Enterprises, stretched across finance, shipping, and technology. Yet despite his billions, he often felt like the loneliest man in the room. 3 months earlier, his board had pushed him into a leave of absence after a bitter clash over ethics. He wanted to expand programs that benefited low-income families. They wanted profits. Tired of the endless war, he vanished from the public eye. No tailored suits, no limousines, just a coat, a duffel bag, and anonymity. And now here he was, in a rundown diner in a small town, sipping free coffee poured by a waitress who didn't know or care about his fortune. "Mind if I sit?" Grace asked later, sliding into the booth across from him during her 5-minute break. She held a half-eaten muffin in her hand. Victor raised a brow. "Aren't you working?" "Technically, yes, but I've got 2 minutes before Carl in the back yells at me." She grinned. "So, stranger, where are you headed?" He hesitated. Revealing too much risked everything. "Nowhere in particular." "That sounds nice," Grace said wistfully. "I'd give anything to just get away. No bills, no double shifts, no landlord knocking on the door." Victor studied her, intrigued. "Why don't you?" "Because someone has to keep my little brother in school," she said with a shrug, though her voice carried a weight he didn't miss. "Parents are gone, it's just me and him. I'm all he's got." Victor felt something stir inside him. Admiration. Here was a woman with nothing, yet she gave freely, even to a stranger. Days turned into weeks. Victor returned to the diner again and again, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for pie, but mostly for Grace. She teased him for being secretive, called him Mr. Mystery, and told him about her dreams, finishing college, opening a bookstore cafe, maybe even traveling to Italy one day. One night, after closing, Victor helped her wipe down tables. "Why do you keep coming back here?" Grace asked softly. Victor hesitated. This was the moment. He could lie, or he could trust her. "I wanted to see if kindness still existed. Most people, they want something from me. But you gave without expecting anything in return." Grace tilted her head, confused. "What could you possibly have that people want?" Victor took a deep breath. "Grace, my name isn't just Victor. It's Victor Hale." She froze, rag in hand. "Wait, the Victor Hale? As in Hale Enterprises?" "Yes." His eyes bore into hers. "And you, without knowing who I was, gave me something I can't buy. Kindness without condition." Grace's mouth opened, then shut. A dozen thoughts clashed in her head. Finally, she whispered, Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to know who I was without the money. And you saw me." The next morning, Grace expected him not to return. Men like him didn't belong in greasy diners with waitresses who wore patched shoes. But he did return, this time with a different light in his eyes. "I want to help you," Victor said simply, sliding into the booth. Grace frowned. "Help me how?" "With your brother's education? With your bookstore dream? With everything." Her defenses shot up. "I don't want charity." "This isn't charity," Victor replied firmly. "It's gratitude. You showed me more humanity in one cup of coffee than I've seen in years. Let me give back." Grace studied him, torn. She had always prided herself on surviving through grit, not handouts. But there was sincerity in his voice, an earnestness she couldn't ignore. "Fine," she said at last, "but only if I work for it. No freebies." Victor smiled. "Deal." Weeks later, Grace stood inside a renovated storefront downtown. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books Victor had helped her source from local suppliers. A small espresso machine hissed in the corner, the air rich with the scent of roasted beans. Above the door hung a wooden sign, Evans & Co., Books and Brews. Her brother, Ethan, flipped through a textbook at one of the tables, grinning, ear to ear. Victor stepped in, dressed not in billionaire armor, but in jeans and a sweater. "Looks incredible," he said softly. Grace turned to him, eyes shining. "I still don't understand why you chose me." "Because you reminded me that money means nothing without purpose. You gave me back my faith in people. And in myself." News eventually spread that Victor Hale had resurfaced, and cameras once again chased him. Reporters speculated about the woman often seen at his side, the small-town waitress who'd somehow captured his attention. But to Grace, none of that mattered. What mattered was that she had stayed true to herself, giving kindness not because of who Victor was, but because of who she was. One evening, as the shop closed, Victor leaned across the counter. "Grace," he said softly, "I came here searching for something. I thought I'd lost myself, but I found more than I ever imagined." She smiled, wiping her hands on her apron, and all it took was a cup of coffee. Months later, Evans & Co. thrived. College students studied at its tables, families gathered for story hours, and locals found warmth within its walls. Grace's brother prepared to attend university, his tuition quietly covered by a scholarship fund Victor had established in their parents' names. Victor, for his part, returned to Hale Enterprises with a renewed fire. But this time, he brought Grace's influence with him. Under his leadership, the company launched initiatives that provided affordable housing, scholarships, and community grants. And through it all, Grace stood beside him, not as a beneficiary, but as an equal partner, reminding him daily of the lesson she had unknowingly taught. That sometimes, the smallest kindness, a cup of coffee paid forward, could change not just one life, but many.